So I was trying to think about what story I would tell tonight, and I figured that probably with the audience, the story of my first month in Munich is probably the best one to tell. It's one that many people will, well, perhaps not the exact circumstances identify with, but in general people can identify with the crash course in expectations that you get when you arrive in Munich. So I've always been lucky.
Sorry, it's okay. Just keep going.
So I've always been lucky. I've often had the right things happen to me at just the right moments. I wangled my way onto my PhD program in York, in England, largely because, and I quote my supervisor, on the day of my great PhD graduation, "You gave a shit interview, but you were the best of a bad bunch." Thanks, Pierre. And then subsequent to that, he offered me a postdoc position in Belgium, of all places, and I'm clearly...
Sorry, it's still not working.
Yeah.
Okay, keep
Offered
going.
me a PhD postdoc position in Belgium, and again I quote, "Paul, I can't be bothered to teach anyone I don't know. Why don't you just come with me?" I'm like, well, all right then, fine, yes, I'll do that. So that's what brought me in 2011 and 2012 to Belgium. And then, so at the end of that particular period, I discovered that about 4 years ago, my supervisor had put me forward for a job offer in Munich and not bothered to mention it to me. So then I suddenly had an Italian guy on the phone saying, "We have a 4-year job position for you, when do you want to start?" And I'm like, what? I don't know, what? Yes, okay, fine. And then suddenly I'm bound for Munich. Now I've never set foot in Germany before, I've never spoken any German, and to be honest, I've never set foot in a town, I've never lived in a town with a population of more than about 180,000 people. So I'm not really used to this big city life. But, you know, I think, how different can it be? You know, I've lived in small town Britain, I've lived in small town Belgium, I'm sure I can, you know, it will be all right. I've got boundless optimism that I can make life in Munich work. So, and, you know, this optimism was sort of justified because really, within the last 2 days of my life in Belgium, I met somebody who said, "Oh, I know this guy, this woman, excuse me, I know this woman, and she's got this flat in Munich, and she's moving out, and it's going to be from October, so all you have to do is just go and meet her, and then like she'll just sign the contract over." I was like, "Oh, sweet, excellent, I am sorted, this is all done." And I thought, okay, so all I've got to do is get this house, and then just exist in Munich for the first month. All right, I can do this. So I thought, okay, so I looked at hotel prices, I looked at B&B prices, I looked at Airbnb prices. I thought, I'm kind of just pissing money away here. This is really expensive. What am I, like, and then I was like, I know, I'll camp. I'll buy a tent and I will camp. This is a great idea. So then all the money I would spend on the hotel that just disappears, I'll buy a tent, and then I've got this tent forever. And then think of all the camping I can do in Bavaria, all the beautiful scenery, this wonderful environment, and then I'll be able to, you know, stand in a bar one day and tell people how cool it was that I camped in Munich in my first month. Nothing can go wrong with this plan. So I bought the tent, and I packed my life up in Belgium, and I got on the train from Belgium to Munich with a change at Frankfurt. And so I cut a very strange figure. I had an enormous suitcase here, piled high with bags. I had an enormous suitcase here, piled high with bags, with my tent bag strapped to the back of it. I had an enormous rucksack on my back, with another bag strapped to the back of that. And then I had another bag on the front, and another bag on front of that. And I felt like, I don't know, Scott of the Antarctic, ready to set off on some sort of grand adventure. And then I realised 3 important things, you know, very quickly. The first was that I could not turn corners. The second was that I couldn't climb stairs. And the third was that travelling more than about 3 meters with this massive amount of equipment was going to give me a heart attack. And this hellish journey did not get any better when at Frankfurt, you know, with the change to the Munich train, when basically the bag that had my most precious things in it, my laptop and various other bits of like fragile personal equipment, you know, well that sounds a bit dubious, fragile personal things, basically took a nosedive and decided that it was bored with the set of stairs I'd been trying to climb and hurled itself back down them, all the way to the bottom of the flight of stairs, leaving me to go, oh shit, and desperately dive back down the stairs. And then like spend a good 5 minutes checking to make sure everything was okay, everything was fine, lugging the damn thing back up the stairs, by which point, of course, I'd missed my train. So, as a result, I arrived in Munich a lot later than when I was expecting to arrive, and ended up pitching my tent in something close to total darkness. But it's all right. I thought this is okay. I can cope with all this. The campsite had a nice campfire. I grabbed a beer. I sat. I drank my beer. I thought I can do this, and my house viewing's tomorrow. Everything's going to be fine. So I went to bed, climbed into my sleeping bag, and tried to sleep. Now, a brief aside. Those of you who might recognise the accent might recognise the North of England accent. I'm from an area called Newcastle. Newcastle is distinctive for the local population, who are referred to as Geordies. And these people are very hardy, very resilient. They're famed for going out clubbing, wearing almost nothing, and sneering at anyone who even thinks about the concept of a coat. 2 additional facts for you. I don't have my local accent. I am a terrible Geordie. I shivered my way through that night. I was so damn cold. And so I woke up the next morning ready for my house viewing, having slept barely anything, still sort of shaking off the sort of, oh my god, it was cold moment. And so I went to see the new house, or the potential new house, I should say. And I saw it. I fell in love with it on the spot. It was in Thalkirchen, it was right by the U-Bahn, the river was just there. It had very cheap rent, frankly. It had no pollution, which at the time was, important. I was sort of wandering around this. It wasn't a huge flat, but it was wandering around it thinking, this is amazing. I know exactly where all this furniture's going to go. Oh, I can put my bed there. Look at the kitchen. The kitchen's really nice. Oh, it's got a serving hatch. I'll think of all the cool dinner parties and house parties I'll be able to have. I'll be like the toast of the town. And so I thought this was great, and the only thing I had to do to get this apartment was basically give my details to the current occupant, who would give them to the landlord, and then they would sign all the various paperwork, sort it out, and they'd be in touch in a few days to sort of finish the transfer, sign the papers, etc. So I went back to the campsite in pretty high spirits. I was like, this is great, I'm all sorted, I'll be able to just chill and relax and enjoy this next month in Munich camping. It's going to be brilliant. So the next few days marked a sort of a strange routine, I guess you'd call it. I'd get up, I'd have breakfast with the campsite cafeteria, I'd avoid the woman who kept telling me I was going to hell, damned for all my wicked deeds. And then I would get all my personal effects, like passport, private documents, whatever, pack them into my bag, and take them to work with me. As a brief aside, when I realised that I was living in Munich and no one actually understands the concept of theft, I started just hiding things underneath the ground sheet of the tent, and that was also fine. So I'd take all this stuff to work, I'd come home, I'd have dinner, I'd then put on 3 layers of clothing, climb inside 2 sleeping bags, and pile every single piece of clothing that I had on top of me, and still I was cold. But I could get through this. I had some reason. I was like, okay, I've just got to get through this. In a few days' time, we'll sign the paperwork, it'll all be good. And so I got through the routine. And then a few days later, obviously, I got a very apologetic phone call from the lady who was living in the house. And she was very sorry. The landlord wasn't going to rent to me. What? Why? Well, he doesn't want to rent to someone who doesn't speak German. Like, well, of course I don't speak German. I've literally just moved here. I mean, okay, fine. Okay, well, thank you very much. So I went around the campsite trying to find someone who spoke German and was willing to speak to the landlord on my behalf, and I explained my argument to them, and they kindly agreed to call him. So they called and explained. I was very happy to learn German. I would be making my top priority, and frankly, the rent is so cheap, relatively speaking, that I felt confident that I could even, during the interim period, if he really needed to speak to me, I could get in an interpreter. If he really needed to send me a letter, I'd get the damn thing translated. This was really not an issue. And so this conversation rattled on for 5 or 6 minutes. And after that time, she sort of puts the phone down and says, I'm really sorry, I think he just hates foreigners. And I was gutted, honestly I was gutted. And I'm still a little bit bitter about losing that house to this day. And that really marked the beginning of 2 weeks of extra unpleasantness, as what followed was 2 more weeks of house hunting rejections, trying, not finding anything, not getting responses, not getting callbacks. And also the encounters with the unintelligible and occasionally a little bit unfriendly sort of bureaucracy of trying to sort of get everything started up for this new life. And then also this sort of the cold weather shivering through the nights. So I was really not having an awful lot of fun, and I was getting a little bit uncertain that this optimism I had was justified. Now, I've always been a little bit prone, in bad, when times have been rough, to stress dreams. And they're quite challenging because they don't really, they're kind of difficult to tell from reality. And I often wake up confused and disoriented. And it's not a lot of fun. And in the campsite, I was starting to hear people talking about the strange guy in the tent who was shouting a lot in the middle of the night and then getting up and standing outside his tent looking disorientated. And I was mortified, I was embarrassed, but there was one critical problem with all this. This wasn't real. I was dreaming that this was what was happening. And then things kind of became a self-fulfilling prophecy, because I would have these dreams and then wake up stressed and confused, and would stand outside my tent, looking disoriented. And then, in the most British way imaginable, apologising to everyone who passed me by for the fact that I was waking up in the middle of the night, shouting a lot, standing outside looking at my tent, looking disoriented, and then apologising to people about it. I'd kind of had enough. That kind of really hit breaking point for me. So, that next day, I went down to the letting agency, I handed over all my savings for a short-term business let, and moved into a flat with a ridiculously enormous provision, a flat with very little floor space, a flat that was frankly filthy when I moved into it, a flat with furniture that Satan's own discount reject store would probably turn down, a kitchen that makes me sad just thinking about it, and an internet connection that, with a partner back in London at the time that worked only once in the blue moon, was less than ideal. And that's where I was for 6 months. And I was sort of thinking, all this is going to happen again in 6 months' time. Like, in 6 months' time, I'll be exactly back in the same position. This is awful. I'm really not confident that things are in fact going to be all right. But okay, I had the roof over my head. I was at least warm. I didn't have to shiver my way through the night anymore. And I wasn't going to let this rough experience cloud my first important Munich event, which was of course Oktoberfest. So I readied myself for Oktoberfest. I got put on some decent clothes. Things that didn't smell like a campsite. And I got my brand new, shiny, uninsured, long contract smartphone, and I put it in my pocket, and I went to Oktoberfest, and I had a great time. I danced on the tables, I got shouted at by our angry Bavarian waitress, I drank too much beer, of course, and I lost my phone. And then, so basically the end of that night found me scrabbling around underneath the tables with a Bavarian waitress who was getting really grumpy because she wanted to go home, trying to find this brand new smartphone. I did not have any private insurance, I did not have anything on it, and did not find it. And so a drunk, exhausted Paul went back to his house and just felt fucking miserable. I was so sad. I was stuck in a house that was bankrupting me moment by moment. And now I had a phone that I didn't even have anymore, that I was paying for the next 2 years. And really, things were feeling pretty rock bottom. And I think it was that point that my boundless optimism kind of grabbed a bottle, hid itself under the bed, and promised me that it wasn't going to come out until I had left Munich. But with one last throw of the optimism dice, it gave one good suggestion, which was, why don't you try calling that phone, Paul? And I did. I called the phone. And basically, someone answered. Miraculously, someone answered. Thank goodness someone answered. And it was a waitress. It wasn't the waitress that we'd had. It was another waitress from the tent. And she picked up the phone, and I could come back and get it the next morning. And I was like, oh, thank God. Oof. So next morning, I get up. I go to the tent, and I go to where she said that she works. And it's only one table row over from where we'd been looking all along. And I get my phone off her, and miraculously, not a scratch on it. It must have fallen out of my pocket, been kicked over somewhere, but not a mark on it. I am so relieved. and I'm just about to say thank you to her in the most effusive way imaginable, when suddenly I hear this big Bavarian voice behind me going, "Oh my God, you found your phone!" And suddenly I'm grabbed in this enormous bear hug, like, you know, the biggest bear hug I've had in my whole life. And I turn around, and it's the angry Bavarian waitress, except she's not angry anymore. She's beaming like a mad thing from ear to ear, and she's grabbing me, and she's hugging me, and she's telling me how happy she is that I found my phone, how rare it is to find this environment, how happy this makes her, and how happy she hopes I am. And so I hug her back, and I say thank you to the other waitress. I thank her, and I say, yes, I am happy. And actually I found that I sort of was. And it was kind of that moment when my sense of optimism, which has been hiding under the bed, kind of picked itself up and dragged itself out from under the bed and smashed a bottle over the head of the sense of depression that had kind of been building inside me, and sort of reasserts itself in my life. And, you know, and things were admittedly a bit shit for about 6 months after that. And, you know, I did get a house, I did find my feet. Things were, and things are, all right. You know, this year marks the year I've said, okay, I'm going to continue my life in Munich, I'm going to stay here for the mid to long term. Admittedly, I still do not speak German, and I still haven't used that tent. And in about 24 months, there's this looming thing of a Brexit, which apparently means Brexit, that is going to make life very complicated. But for now, and hopefully for the future, I'm happy and I plan to stay that way. Thank you very much.